Young Queen, Young Queen.
Feel the power of you controlling your breathing right now, in this moment. Here, in the present, the greatest gift you have, that we have. That power, that determination that's in you and everyone. Same power we use to control our minds, one thought at a time, one breath at a time. Here we are, another beautiful day in the gym of life. Life, the greatest teacher of all. You get to learn from it every single day, every single moment. No matter how young you are, how old you are, no matter what you look like, how different you are. We are one. We are the same in one fundamental way. One truthful way. We were born to win. To be happy, to be as we were born. So let's see ourselves today. Determination, let's see ourselves determining to do our best on whatever exercises, stretches we do, the way we move our bodies today in this moment we have together. Do it to the best of our ability by simply being. Morning, guys. Today, Wayne Dyer reminds us of the power and control of our mind and how important it is. And he shares with us his wisdom of, as you think, so shall you be. So, this one is everything for me. This is my passion. I love and am fascinated and am obsessed with the power of the human mind because I know that whatever goes on in here will manifest itself out here. And so we have to remember that. And once we understand how powerful our thoughts are, we will guard very carefully what thoughts we allow into our minds. And it's a challenge. It's a thing that's not going to come overnight. It's going to take a lot of time. But you will see amazing changes. So if you can remember, as you think, so shall you be, it will start to transform your life. And that's why I'm so passionate about filling our minds with positive thought energy. Hope this helps, everyone. Have a great morning.
I'm gonna let you all know something. So when Brennan came to me and he's like, "Hey, I said, what's the theme for like the upcoming month?" And he's like, "Focus and discipline." And I'm thinking to myself, that's great because I have none of either. But at the same time, somehow I managed to get a lot of stuff done on any given day. But I started to realize a couple of years back that discipline, that getting astonishing things done, that accomplishing, achieving at the highest level, it was not just an inside game and not just an outside game, it was a blended game. And that so many of us focus on one particular thing. And we end up realizing that we're doing one thing well, we're doing one thing poorly, but we're not getting where we want to go. We don't have the discipline to do it. We don't have the focus to do it. We keep wandering off. And we become really good starters and really terrible finishers. And I know nobody here, of course, I'm talking about myself. When you look at the people who've actually, the world views as having astonishing focus and astonishing discipline and who are able to accomplish incredible things, that there are some commonalities with them. Now, my mind kind of works in frameworks. So I started to really deconstruct a lot of my own experiences, the opportunity that I've had to sit down with hundreds of some of the most accomplished people from literally every domain of life, and then pour into the academic research on everything from goal setting to achievement, to focus, to attention, and things like that, and developed my own framework. And I call it success scaffolding. Now, that scaffolding, think of it as this is a superstructure that you build both around you in your environment, in your relationships, and it's also an infrastructure. It's a structure that you build in your mind, in your body, and they work together to allow you to accomplish astonishing things. They effectively install focus and discipline. And by doing that, they help the likelihood that you're actually going to show up and accomplish amazing things. They help that become your reality. So let's dive into it. We hear these words discipline, we hear the word grit out in the world a lot. I've had the opportunity to sit down in conversation with the primary researcher on grit, Angela Duckworth, a number of times over the years and really go deep into it. And we hear that, it's this thing that people either have or they don't have, similar to you either have focus or you have discipline or you don't have it. And what we started to realize is that's actually not entirely true at all. That a lot of this stuff is practicable, it's buildable, it's installable. So first one is picture, right? So we want to create a picture of the thing that we want to accomplish or do or the place we want to go. Large or small, it really doesn't matter. A lot of times we think about that thing we want to accomplish and we kind of keep it spinning in our minds, right? But we never memorialize it in any meaningful way. And the problem is when we never memorialize it, we don't entirely know what we're working towards. We don't know what it looks like, what it feels like, what it'll be like when we're there, what the fundamental qualities of it will be. So we never really truly understand what is the first step in, because we're not clear exactly on what it is that we want to move towards. So one of the first things you want to do is to create a picture of this thing that we want to move towards or accomplish. So for me, if that's a book, so I just literally just turned in the next book a couple of weeks ago, for me, that was getting really, really clear on what this book is going to be. What's the theme? What's the big idea? What's the promise? What are the core ideas and the supporting ideas? But I'm also somebody who's hyper visual. I don't know about you, and I'm a maker. I make ideas manifest. That's my sparketype or archetype or impulse for work that makes me come alive. So I needed to go a step further and really envision, what does the physical object look like? And that actually helped me sit down and figure out how I'm going to start working on this thing. So when you create that picture in your mind, you want to do two things: be specific and be sensory. Again, this is all in the mind map. So be specific and be sensory. Be as clear and as granular and as specific as you can get. Behavioral psychologist at Stanford, BJ Fogg, calls this crispifying the idea. Make it really crisp, right? Super clear. It's like you're taking a lens on a camera that's out of focus and turning it so everything comes into super clear focus, and you have a lot of specificity in what you're doing. And then make it sensory. Give it sound, give it a visual, give it motion, give it scent, if that's what you want. Make it tactile. What does it feel like? Right? So create this picture, make it as much as you can. If you literally have a camera and you have a sense, people do this all the time now. They create boards, whether you call them pin boards or vision boards or whatever it is, to actually get as detailed, as granular, as visual, and as sensory as you can. You want to create a picture which is detailed enough that it makes you start to feel things. And that becomes really important, because your brain actually is a little bit like a GPS. Neuroscientist who works out of Harvard and Harvard Medical School professor Srini Pillay says that when you get super clear on this thing that you want to move towards, create, or achieve, that it becomes like this implanted GPS in your brain. Your neurocircuits actually start to work on the steps that will get you there without you even having any understanding of the fact that your brain is now working 24/7 on getting there. Notice I didn't start where most people start, right? Most people start with making a plan. We're going to get to that. But that is also one of the big stumbling points for so many people. First, you want to get clear on where it is you want to go. Now, before I move on to the second B, I want to answer a question that comes up very often, which is, what if you just don't know? What if you're not entirely clear? Now, I live and work in the world of business and entrepreneurship and startups. So I work with a lot of founders. And a lot of times when a founder is trying to start something, whether it's a private practice or a platform or business, they have some sense of what they wanted to do and the problem they wanted to solve, but they don't know the details yet. And they kind of know that that's going to unfold over time. So if the thing that you're thinking about accomplishing, if the thing that you want to harness focus and discipline towards is not really super easy to make specific and sensory at this moment in time, zoom the lens out just a touch. And what you want to do is think about, what are the essential qualities of that thing, right? So I know if I'm looking to launch a company, I kind of know the qualities. I know what culture I want, what people I want. I can get a lot more specific in the context of qualities. And while that may not be as effective, that gets me way past just having some sort of nebulous idea spinning in my head. And then be sure to memorialize this, right? Either write it out, like literally like take a page and write out what this picture is, take pictures, draw it, film videos, whatever you need to do to make it real to you. That's what we want to do.
This can be your day for personal growth. This can be that day you committed to and you remember, you go, that was the day I got myself a community. I got better coaches. I committed to making my life the absolute best that I could. This is that day. Make today your growth day. Click the button on this page and sign up right now.
Good afternoon, guys. I remember Napoleon Hill in his book Think and Grow Rich saying that the greatest richness we can ever have is what we are. It's not what we have, it's what we are. And it's so true. So if we can think of ourselves as that source of richness, and every decision, every thought we choose to allow to occupy our mind will affect the richness that we become, that energy, that source of richness. We have the power to change ourselves and to have our life be everything that we are, because we're that magnet. We're that magnet that will attract the things and circumstances in our life that we wish to have, but we have to be that. We have to work so hard to be that richness. And that means filling our minds with positive thought energy, endless positive thought energy. Hope this helps, everyone. Have a good afternoon. Guys, I remember Napoleon Hill in his
Sleep is the fundamental layer of mental and physical health. If there's one thing that we should all be doing is working toward sleeping long enough and deeply enough. 80% is a good goal because things happen. Until you are sleeping long enough and deeply enough, 80% of the nights of your life, there are a number of risks to not getting enough sleep. Deficits in learning, deficits in the immune system, reduction in testosterone and estrogen in both men and women, so disruption of hormones, disruption of gut microbiome. The severity of those things depends on a lot of other things too. Prior health, other health conditions, context, age, occupation. You know, if you're not getting enough sleep and you're a high-rise construction worker, it's different than if you're an office worker. We need to sleep enough. Now, what's enough sleep? Enough sleep has been argued it's 6 hours. Other people it's 7 hours. Other people it's 8 hours. It's basically waking up without an alarm clock and feeling rested. Insomnia is a medical term, and insomnia is essentially diagnosed as falling asleep during the middle of the day due to lack of sleep at nighttime.
Oh, okay.
But many people who are having trouble sleeping at night are not falling asleep during the middle of the day. They're dealing with grogginess or crankiness or other effects of having fragmented sleep.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more. And you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Dr. Andrew Huberman, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
What are the main causes of not being able to fall asleep? Is it rumination? Is it traumas that you're holding on to? Is it arguments? Is it self-doubt or insecurities? Is it you nap too much? Is it the foods you ate too late? Like, what would you say are the main causes of not being able to fall asleep?
Yeah, all of the above. But the primary one is a failure to turn off your thoughts.
Okay.
And I think that might provide a good anchor point for us to talk about some protocols. Really, a excellent night's sleep begins in the morning. I talked about this on the previous episode, so I won't go into detail, but everyone should get as much bright light in their eyes, ideally from sunlight, first thing in the morning, 10 to 30 minutes outside, depending on how bright it is. Eyeglasses or contact lenses are fine. Don't wear sunglasses if you can do it safely. If you wake up before the sun rises, turn on bright lights, then go outside once the sun rises. If you have no access to sunlight, use a daytime simulator or similar, like a ring light, and get that light in your eyes.
Okay.
So that's all of that in a compact form. Caffeine. You can inhibit falling asleep with caffeine. You have to figure out when your threshold is. For me, I can drink caffeine up until about 3, even 4 o'clock in the afternoon and sleep like a baby.
And still sleep well.
Yes, and Matt Walker, our good friend Matt Walker, would say that my sleep isn't as good as it would be had I cut caffeine out earlier.
By like 11 or 12 a.m.
Right, and I want to acknowledge, Matt is the Michael Jordan of sleep science, and so I'm not going to.
You're the LeBron James.
No, and in fair, thank you for the compliment, but no, I'm not. I know a lot of the science and the protocols, but that's Matt's wheelhouse, and so if he says something, it's true, and if I say something, and our opinions conflict, it's likely to be something that the data are still emerging, or in that case, default to Matt being correct, because I just out of due respect for his expertise. So Caffeine, for some people, they can have a 2 o'clock espresso, 2 p.m. espresso. Some people it's 4 p.m. Some people can drink caffeine at 8 p.m. and fall asleep. But there, I would say it's problematic because you're disrupting the architecture of sleep and the brain waves associated with sleep, the chemicals and so forth. So get that morning light. Cut your caffeine off at the time that allows you to fall asleep. That morning light also sets a timer on your melatonin rhythm. So you have this gland in your brain called the pineal gland. That pineal is the source of melatonin. Melatonin makes you sleepy, but it does not keep you asleep.
Okay.
Melatonin starts to rise in the late evening and continues into the night and then eventually tapers off. This is naturally occurring melatonin release, not supplemented melatonin release. The fastest way to slam melatonin to the pavement and eliminate it in your system is to look at bright light for, I hate to tell you this, even a few seconds. So.
You mean at night?
At night is typically when melatonin rises.
Yes.
It's when it's released in the bloodstream and when it has this effect of making us sleepy. It does a number of other things too.
You want more melatonin at night, is that right?
You do. And
Yes.
if you wake up in the middle of the night or it's 8 o'clock and you decide you want to go to bed at 9 or it's 9 o'clock, you want to go to bed at 10 and you go into the bathroom and you flip on the bright lights, your melatonin levels just got crushed down to
So
zero.
having lights on is the worst thing you can do.
Yes, and it doesn't matter if it's blue light, red light, purple light, green light. Bright lights inhibit melatonin very acutely, and therefore you want to avoid exposure to bright lights at night if your goal is to be asleep. So the simple rule that governs all this stuff is when you want to be alert, get bright light in your eyes, ideally from sunlight. So that's true in the morning and throughout the day. And when you want to be sleepy or asleep, avoid bright light in your eyes. Now, many home environments don't allow you to have zero lights, and that's not actually necessary. You can just dim the lights in the evening. Ideally, you also avoid overhead lights because the neurons in the eye that trigger this melatonin suppression and so forth, they reside in an area of the eye that views upper visual space. So you could have desk lamps or and just dim those down. If you're going to work on a screen, dim it way down. Will blue blockers help? Yes, but if the light is bright enough, you're still going to inhibit melatonin.
Rule number 2, optimize your environment.
Most people are primarily visual. There's an interesting study that was published recently, it just came out, and that shows that actually memory and recall for material that's consumed on a phone is much lower than on the written page. And there's an interesting reason that they give for this. There could be a lot of reasons. I just want to point that out. But they monitored breathing, and they monitored heart rate, and they monitored some other physiological signals while people were either reading on a smartphone or reading paper. And what they found was that breathing was essentially normal or equivalent in both conditions, meaning people breathed the same way, whether or not they were reading on their smartphone or reading from a written page. But there was a particular category of breath that was abolished by reading on the smartphone. And this is what is referred to as physiological sighs. I talk a lot about physiological sighs on the podcast, and my lab works on them. This is a spontaneous, innate pattern of breathing that's governed by a little subset of neurons in the brainstem. For those of you who want to know, this is a brainstem area called the parafacial nucleus, discovered by Jack Feldman at UCLA, who's the kind of world expert in the neural mechanisms of respiration. And this little collection of neurons, probably only 100 neurons or so, makes sure that every 3 to 5 minutes, you do what's called a physiological sigh, which is a very deep breath, sometimes followed by another short inhale. So, and then a long exhale. And the double deep breath, or the very deep breath, reinflates the little sacs in the lungs. Your lungs aren't just 2 big bags of air. They actually have hundreds of millions of little sacs that we call the alveoli of the lungs. And when you don't do these physiological sighs, so in the second or third minute after not having done a physiological sigh, these little sacs collapse. And they're kind of moist on the inside. So you can imagine trying to blow open a balloon that's moist on the inside. You need a little bit of added air pressure. And so those sighs reinflate those. And then on the exhale, allow you to offload carbon dioxide. Now, this happens even during sleep, every 3 to 5 minutes. And I've talked a lot about physiological sighs as what I think is really a terrific real-time tool for reducing anxiety and calming oneself down. And indeed, it works very well. We have a study that's out for review now. It's a collaborative work with David Spiegel in psychiatry, but it points out that these physiological sighs can be used, double inhale through the nose, long exhale through the mouth, to calm down. And it works very well because you offload carbon dioxide. Now, in this study about smartphone reading versus reading on paper, what they found is that people stop engaging in physiological sighs during anytime they're reading on the smartphone. Now, it wasn't a perfect study because they probably also should have had a tablet and a laptop condition. So it's not clear whether or not it's due only to the reduced aperture of the visual window that you're narrowing your attention. And there's this sort of almost like an apnea, a kind of starving of yourself for oxygen when you do this. But it's very clear, I mean, it's abundantly clear that two things. One is nasal breathing, and that the other is getting sufficient oxygen to the brain is important for comprehension. So the takeaway from this is, if ever possible, try and read from a written page, and if you, or from a book or a piece of paper. And if you can't do that, then try and access whatever you're learning from as large a screen as you can manage in that particular environment.
Right.
And I do realize when people are commuting, and sometimes I'm guilty of looking at my phone and trying to read papers and passages on my phone. But it's interesting because this study highlights the linkage between this visual attention, our respiration, and the fact that, our body and our brain have these innate mechanisms for making sure that we're getting sufficient oxygen, we're getting sufficient blood flow to the brain areas that are required for learning. And so again, I don't want to de-emphasize the fact that there is a lot of legitimate clinically diagnosed ADHD out there. But for a lot of people that are struggling with attention, or they feel like they just can't focus, I think we all owe it to ourselves to ask, well, what kind of environment am I creating for myself that is depriving me of this focus? And what simple things can I do to try and enhance my ability to focus? Because I'm personally of the belief that, if possible, and wherever it's not hazardous, to start with behavioral tools, right? Before ever moving to supplementation or prescription drugs, unless there's a real dire need, I would think that behavioral tools should be the most valuable, for the simple reason that when you engage in a behavior over and over again, you get neuroplasticity, your brain circuits change and get better. Simply taking a drug or a supplement of any kind, although they can have their value, isn't going to rewire your brain in the ways that you want. You are essentially dependent on that chemistry in order to access the state that you want.
Right.
Rule number 3, develop alertness.
The whole process
It's so lovely when it's sunny.
Good evening, guys. One of the things that I've always had a challenge with, and I'm not sure if this has happened to you, but I thought I'd share this as we live, laugh, and love our way to infinite mind wealth. And that is when we've made a mistake. If you've made a mistake, you yourself know. We all know the truth about ourselves. We all know what we really are deep down inside. We know when we've made a mistake. And so when we have people constantly remind us of those mistakes or be really negative and hard on ourselves, it can be very frustrating. But if we remember and we know the truth of who we really are, and we're comfortable with the fact that we can make mistakes, laugh at them, and then learn from them and move on, then nothing outside of us can affect us in terms of bringing us to a lower negative state. It's a hard thing, but I just know that we have to be the ones to accept the truth of who we are and then move on. Have a great evening, everyone.
If somebody is starting from scratch, what are the traits, skill sets that they should be cultivating in order to up the odds of their success?
They should focus on one thing in general rather than lots of different things that you're not sure about. Because if you're starting out, everything looks like an opportunity. So correct answer is all of them are opportunities, but all of them won't work unless you pick one. So boom, you pick one. And then from there, I always say 6 figures is sell something to someone. That's it. And if you want more detail, sell something to someone. So it's one avatar, one product, one channel. You don't have to figure out, just pick one channel, one media source, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Consistently start going on that, whether that's cold outbound, whether that's content, whatever it is, and start reaching out to people there to start selling your stuff. You have to learn how to advertise, which I define as the process of making known. So you have to advertise. There's 6 ways to do it. And then once people engage with whatever advertisement you have, advertising is the first skill, selling them is the second skill. Product would be the third skill, which is the thing that you're ultimately advertising and selling.
That gets to 6 figures. What gets to 7?
Doing the same thing consistently. So usually once people do it in the beginning, they're sporadic, they're not consistent with it, usually gets people to 100,000 a month, which sounds crazy to probably people listening, but most people who think that's crazy also haven't done it consistently for an extended period of time. And so I use something that I call the rule of 100, which is 100 primary actions, whether that's 100 minutes of content creation per day, 100 reach outs per day. You have to pick one of them, but 100 per day. You do that for 100 days, and I promise you'll be making 6 figures if you do that.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I was making $300 a month. I quit on my business partner, and the thing that saved me was studying the stories of super successful entrepreneurs. So I hope that this story today helps give you the motivation you need, because I still need it too myself. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Alex Hormozi, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2, start small.
To get started, you have to sell something to someone. That's it. Like literally, that's all. One avatar, one product, one channel. That's it. So you have one way of getting customers. You sell one thing to one specific type of person. That is all you need to do to get to 6 figures. To get to 7 figures, you need to learn how to do those 3 things, reliably, consistently, right? So it's, you know how to sell one product, one avatar, and one channel in a consistent manner. So you start having predictive metrics on how you can acquire customers. So it's either I spend this amount of money on advertising, and this is how many calls I get booked, and then from that many calls I get that many sales, etc. If it's outbound, it's like I send this many emails or make this many calls or this many texts, and then this many reply back, this many schedule, this many show, this many close, etc. If you're running organic, it's I know that I need to have this many posts that I have to make across these different channels with call to actions that drive towards this page. For every 1,000 visitors on this page, I get Y opt-ins. You know what I mean? So each of these vehicles, or I have to hit my email list, once a week. And if I hit it once a week with a call to action again. So all these are the different ways you can get customers. You could also do affiliates, you can do referrals. There's many ways to do it. But the point is you pick one avatar, one channel, and one product. And then as soon as you can start predicting how many inputs it takes to get an output, then you get to 1 million, right? And at that point, you're at 1, 2, 3 million-ish a year. 1 to 3, you have to build out your core team. So that's usually like the first 5 hires, first 5 to 10-ish that are, it depends on the ticket of the thing that's being sold. If you're selling $25,000 things versus $500 things, the team size is going to be different. But it's the core team at about 3 million. And that's the reason that we take companies on at 3 is usually because there's a core team, and at 3 million, there's product market fit. So they've demonstrated that people want this thing, and they have enough support that we can take them from 3 to 10. 3 to 10, and this is interesting because this is a mistake a lot of people make at 3, and I can stop whenever you want me to cut the lines of the problems that come up. But the problems that come up at 3-ish are that people start getting cute, right? And they start saying, and here's what's difficult is that you get reinforced on the fact that the more you market, the more you sell, the more money you make, right? And it's true. And you can scale from there by doing more sales and more marketing. And that is what the vast majority of the industry will do because they got reinforced doing it early. The problem is that they switch the objectives. The objective of the first phase of business, which for me is like 0 to 3, is just to demonstrate product market fit and an acquisition channel that is profitable. That is the objective. Now, at this point, we transition objectives to increasing lifetime value per customer. So this is improving the customer experience, putting data tracking in place. If there's an ascension opportunity that makes sense, we need to build out that product or service line so that, and this is the big point, so that when we do choose to add another channel or expand on our current channel, we can do so more profitably, right? Where if you just sell a single product that might not have as much LTV as you would want, as you scale or put more in, your margins begin to compress. So you might go up to 10 million, but your margins have compressed over time. And then you get in this place where you have to keep selling to maintain your overhead, but you're not really taking enough home and you can't have enough free cash flow to grow the business. And so sometimes it's like you have to take the step back, fix the product, fix the customer experience, fix the service, fix the data, fix the infrastructure that everything's built on, probably hire and fire some people that you promoted a little bit too early that didn't have the experience because they're actually not running things that well. And then once we fix that stuff, then honestly, going from 3 to 10 usually almost happens on its own. Once we're at 10, then we go far more aggressively on the acquisition side, which is, the easiest moniker that I use is more, better, new. So we do more of what we're currently doing until we max that out. And then we do better of what we're currently doing. Is there any CRO opportunity? So conversion rate optimization. Can we switch this headline out? Can we change this lead magnet? Can we implement some of the best practices that we know to get more people to show up if it's a service business, if it's a products business? Now I only focus on service businesses, so lots of our stuff is over the phone. Can we change the video sales letters and the follow-up emails, things like that? All the improvements that can happen. And then different is or new is, can we add a new channel to this? So we have 6 that we can choose from to get new customers. We can hit up our own lists. We can do cold outbound. We can do content. We can do paid ads. We can do affiliates, and we can do referrals. And so those are the only 6 ways to get new customers. And we look at those 6 and say, of the skills that we currently have, which of these would make the most sense to add to it? And you can even go adding a new thing within a current. So if you're running paid ads, it's like going from Facebook to YouTube or going from Facebook to TikTok. And so there's, each one of those 6 squares has channels or media channels that you can, or platforms that you can tap into that give you new audiences. So that was a little bit of a crash course there, but that's what allows you to scale from 10 to 30 and beyond. At 30-ish, the founders typically will start feeling constrained because they are the juju behind the entire business.
Rule number 3, be consistent.
You are not successful in my eyes because whenever you see some outcome, you stop the activities, which means you don't have the trait of consistency. I was like, the reason you aren't where you want to be is because you can't do things repeatedly. And so most people can't do one thing over and over again. You need to be able to do the doing without seeing the result of your doing. And you have to keep doing it. And if you can keep doing things independent, and this is both ways, if it goes really well, you keep doing the thing that got you there. And if it's not going well, yet, you keep doing the thing so that you get good enough that one day it will. And that's the shift that most people don't make. And I think that's why most people just stay poor. And the reality is that if you can commit to the actions and the behaviors and the traits that you will grow through doing, then at the end of this process, a decade later, you will be the type of person who can do something for a long period of time and wait. And I promise you that if you have that trait, money will never be a constraint in your life. And this is from Atomic Habits. Every winner and every loser have the same goals. So when you measure yourself by having this external thing, and people are like, set goals. Everyone wants to be rich. Everyone wants to have a 6-pack. Your goals don't make you unique. It's the activities that you do that make you unique. The goal of the winner is to commit to the activities. The goal of the loser is to commit to the goal. 52% of 18-year-olds, high school seniors, think they're going to be millionaires by 25. The world is going to be shook. Many of you will fail. And that's because most of you have the same goal. 52% you think you're going to be a millionaire, right? That's just the math. But only a small percentage will, because if you want to be a millionaire, you're not going to focus on making $1 million. You're going to focus on the stuff that makes $1 million. And so when you can divorce the activities from the outcome, then you can focus on the doing, which whether your income does this over that period of time, your self-esteem remains the same because you're committing to what you can control. If you can make that shift, it will change your life. So I started making podcasts 6 years ago. I committed to that process. When I signed on with a YouTube vendor a few years ago, on the first call I said, I'd like to have this channel be something in 5 to 10 years. I was like, we'll look at it then and see if it was worth continuing to do. I was like, but I'm in for a decade. And he stopped me afterwards. He was like, I've literally never had a client say that to me, ever. He's like, they're all like, how can I get leads in the first 90 days from YouTube? And like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, if we're making progress, I'm good. I will commit to that. I think that if you can think that way, you will get what you want. And then people will ask you a decade from now, man, how did you have this overnight success and blah, 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 blah. And aren't you like, don't the followers and the fans, like, how does it not get to your head? And you're like, because it was never the goal. And so I feel just as good at year 1 as I do at year 8, because the activities that I committed to remain the same. If you can think that way and you can shift your perspective, it'll decrease your emotional ups and downs. And I think we all need ways to decrease our emotional ups and downs in the game of business, because like we need to have second lives and third lives and fourth lives. And the way to do that is to not put your life, your game playing life, in something that you can't control, but putting all your game playing life in the things you can.
Rule number 4, reframe your thinking.
For me, a very core belief that has been, I think, intrinsic to at least the material success that we've experienced has been a belief that meaning is self-ascribed, so that there is no
as we always begin, as everything begins. Through the power of our minds, controlling our breathing. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if you're here, in this moment, in the present, using your gift, the greatest gift you have, the now. I love you. I love you because we're all one. We can all stay in the present and be our true presence. Be the human being we were all born to be. Best today, this gym period, is the way we can do our best in everything and anything, including remaining deeply grateful and loving and kind to each other, helping each other learn, grow, helping each other win together. There's no greater joy than that. There's no greater happiness than that. That's the ultimate truth. You can feel it right now. You were born to win, to be happy, to be peaceful, to simply be your true great self, to enjoy fully this moment